Thank you all. Thank you all so much. The reason I brought you here today, this is great actually. This is representative of my career because it's a technical talk, but I'm going to let other people do all the actual work. So I don't actually have a remote for our slides. I don't know if, yeah, because I'm actually terrible at my job there. I just wanted to give John some exercise. There we go. And you'll see that the slides are incredibly vital. I stole them from Eric on our design team. Yep, operating development teams. You're in the right place if this is your panel. If not, stay anyway. We're more entertaining than anyone else. I am Ben Marks. This is me eating some delicious Indian food because this is really some of the finest Indian food on the planet here in London, although Chennai is a close second. I work for Magento. It's fun. And now I will introduce Steve Blake. And actually, Steve, if you guys will just kind of sure. Let everyone know who you are and where you're from.
Hey, I'm Steve Blake. I'm the head of technology and architecture at SportPursuit. For those of you that haven't heard of SportPursuit, we're a flash sales business selling sports and outdoors gear on time-limited sales. Running Magento at the moment, still running Magento U. So planning to do a Magento 2 migration at some point. And then also recently we've done quite an interesting partnership with Eurosport, where we're going to be hosting the Eurosport shop, which is live at the moment. So kind of a slightly different tangent to our previous business model, but that will also be using Magento. We're based in London. Also have a small offshore development team to supplement the tech team here in London.
Okay, and next we have Carlos.
So, hi everyone. So, I'm Carlos Morgado. I know nothing about Magento, believe it or not. So, most recently, I was the CTO of Just Eat, which undoubtedly all of you know about and potentially have used. So I was there for about 7 years, joined them pre-Series A through IPO and then left them at sort of FTSE 250. And sort of my interest, apart from sort of sharing the experience with you guys here today, I'm also here because I'm doing a bit of consultancy and a couple of the clients I'm working with have retail propositions that I think fit well with Magento's capability. Hence, this is sharing and learning from me today.
Thanks, Carlos. And then, of course, last we have, but never ever least, we have Ignacio from Interactive 4.
Hello, everyone. Maybe should I? You don't want me to speak? It's okay. Hello. So I'm Ignacio. I'm from Spain. I'm the CEO of Interactive 4. So we are a solution provider. We are Magento partners since 8 years right now. And we are a group of people, of 60 people that we are split in different offices. And we have a team that are more than, I don't know, right now we have something like 35 developers, all of them more or less certified, and we were dealing with Magento since the beginning. So, and we also got an award in Last Imagine about being the top contributors, for the Magento open source project. So here I am.
Yeah, and well, and thank you for that. We thank you, Magento. We, the community, also thank you, right? Because all of this stuff goes into, it's a shared benefit. That's the beauty of open source, among many of the tough points. But we're all here to talk about operating developer teams. Curious, who here is actually running a developer team? Okay, wow. So you're definitely in the right room. Who here is a member of a developer team? Okay, it's basically everyone else. Who here is just waiting for the party? Yeah. Oh no, it's a complete total crossover Venn diagram. All right, so we thought we would start off with just a kind of a seed question. We actually had this idea that maybe some of you have questions that you might want to ask us. But really, I just wanted to start with a question that I think, Steve, you came up with before the presentation. What are the challenges? What are the challenges that you face operating a developer team?
Sure. So, as soon as I pose the question, I'll answer first. It's recruiting developers in London, and I think is a worldwide challenge, is difficult. And there are times where I've found myself almost being a full-time recruiter, speaking to developers, trying to convince them that we're doing the right thing, trying to sell them the vision, and it's really difficult where there are all these amazing technologies that are moving so quickly, especially on the front end. Like I remember being at a conference about 5 or 6 years ago where John Riesco was talking, the founder of jQuery, and he was like, everyone was like, "Wow, jQuery is so cool." Whereas now, if you speak to a junior front-end developer who's fresh out of university, they don't want to even touch jQuery with a barge pole. So as a company, you really need to keep up to speed with latest technologies, not just for security and for good practice, but also to actually be an attractive place to work. And we've had to make some technical decisions at an architecture point of view to start using the latest technologies so that they help with recruiting people. And another thing in the front-end market, which has led to us actually having an offshore development team where we've got quite a lot of JavaScript developers based in Russia. So we've got a team of 5 people there now, in addition to a team of 17 here. In London, and I imagine in a lot of other cities, the front-end and native app market is very contract-heavy. So you've got JavaScript developers with a few years of experience that just want to be contractors and just want to work on the latest and greatest technologies, and they can pick and choose. I've been in situations in the past where I've spoken to someone, spoken to an agent, or spoken to someone that I met at a meetup, and then try and invite them in for an interview, and they've already got 2 job offers. So it's quite difficult, and especially being we're not a startup anymore, kind of a more mature startup, but trying to compete with big financial organizations who are willing to pay truckloads of money to developers. It's quite difficult. So for us, that's led to us actually having one of the reasons one of the ways to mitigate that is having offshore development as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can almost imagine being a e-commerce platform and standardizing on something like Prototype. It was a toss-up when the decision was made. Carlos, I mean, as far as working with teams, what were the challenges? What are the challenges that you encountered back then, and that you see as you do consulting now?
Yeah, I mean, the challenges, I would say, are increasingly significant. Right? I mean, if you look at the situation in London today, so if I'll answer the question in the context of recruiting in London specifically, it's very challenging, right? The market is it's a sort of a developer's market, an engineer's market, a talent-driven market, and people, as you quite rightly point out, have a lot of choice. So I think as a person that's recruiting into one's team, you really have to understand and think very clearly about, why does this candidate want to work with you rather than another company. So, I mean, I could talk for ages about it. I think there's a couple of key things perhaps to share. I think the first one is culture. For us was key, right? So when I joined Just Eat, so I'll answer in the context of Just Eat. When I joined Just Eat, we were 5 guys. When I left, with 350. So there's a sort of a very big growth along those 7 years. And the way we recruited really had to change on a number of occasions along those 7 years. as you quite rightly expect, initially the recruitment was done out of one's network. You know, I joined, there's a couple of guys that I knew that I could really trust, and I knew how they worked, and you know, they joined the team. They had a couple of guys each in the team. The team grew in that sort of organic, network-driven way. And that's great, right? Because everyone knows and trusts and knows how they work and is sort of very culturally aligned. The next major challenge for us was actually, how do we maintain that culture? A culture which was key, we felt, and continue to feel, you know, it really powered the team. It was the heart of the team and how we worked. We actually had to sit down over a number of days, you know, over a number of weeks, and actually write down what our culture is, what were the principles that we wanted to work by, and actually we wanted to recruit against. So we went into a mode of actually attracting people, not just because we were very clear on the sort of cultural principles that we wanted to bring on board, but we were able to filter against those as well. And that was something that we sort of maintained throughout, you know, throughout my period there, and I'm sure subsequently. So that made the team very effective and it allowed us to sort of rely on that sort of cultural dimension to create a great team. I think the other thing that we did, and again has already been mentioned, is, you know, we had to sort of go outside. We had to go outside London. And I know, you know, we started off sort of talking about recruiting in London, but I think, you know, at some point you have to accept that you probably can't grow quickly enough and you know, big enough in London because of the talent pool and all of the constraints and, you know, all of the sort of attractive jobs that are out there. So we went to Bristol. Actually, first we went to Kiev and built a team there. And then when the troubles started there, then we sort of paused and actually built a team in Bristol as well. And I think the thing for that drove those decisions were not just about you know, let's go to sort of alternative talent pools, but they were also about sort of separating the sort of catchment area of potential employers. So people from Bristol, obviously, well, not obviously at all, but you know, they're very keen to work and live in Bristol, so they weren't attracted to sort of move to London, so we weren't sort of cannibalizing our own talent pool. And similarly with Kiev as well, so there was no cannibalization. And furthermore, as we sort of seeded those teams, the guys that were in London powering ahead with, you know, the engineering work, they weren't being distracted from recruiting in those two sites. So those were the sort of some of the things that we did in order to sort of grow, and it worked for us.
So it's a little bit tricky, you know, being the last one and trying to say something new, but it's okay. I'll try to do my best.
You could say like this, literally the same thing, but just you did it in Spain.
Yeah, okay. So that means that we do things differently then? Oh, I take as a compliment then. All right, so, I mean, we were struggling a lot when we began, you know. At the beginning, we were an agency that we were selling Magento, and we were outsourcing everything in a company that maybe all of you knows in Uruguay for the beginning. So it was very nice. They were giving us some services. We were having good projects, but we decided to begin to hire someone inside the company. And I think that from that point to the point that we have right now, that we already hired someone to take care of the human resources in our company, that is just a full-time job. It's completely really big jump, you know, from us, you know, in the last 8 years. So we experienced a lot of things. So we learned a lot of stuff. But in terms of hiring, we did a lot of things, like all that we tried, all that you can imagine that you can try in order to get and hire talent. We did it already. Headhunting, friends, cousins as well, but trainings. We went to university as well. We made some programs with them. I think that we tried everything. And the thing that we experienced at the end is that hiring is something. It's like a question of luck, right? So at the beginning, you don't know exactly who are you hiring at the end, you know? So you will experience in the 3 first months if someone is good enough or not. But once you find a unicorn, because for example, having right now Magento 2 front-end developer is like a unicorn. So I have to say so. So finding a unicorn like this, and also that can be committed to the company, and also fit into the culture, as you say. So it's like, man, there's no money to pay that. It's like winning the lottery, right? So we working also in this market that it's it's not only just making websites. We make little and small or big, depending on the client, manage machines for them. So it takes a lot of responsibility also, everything that we do, because affects directly the business of our merchants, our clients, right? So we need to. So when we find someone like this, so we need to do something in terms to retain them, right? And retaining them is not like just paying them more money, because money means not exactly the same for different people, right? So at the end, you need to show them a growing path at some place to work, to have a team, and growing not in a standard basics from your point of view or my point of view to their point of view, because jumping into another position for them maybe can make them unhappy as well, right? So this is more or less the way of we are working right now with this new position, trying to draw the standard of a growing career path for the people that work for us inside the company. And depending on the way of psychological thinking about their work, because maybe if you put someone that is very talented outside development and you want them to be like an architect, not all the people is aiming to do this thing, right? Or also dealing with clients. So, and if you want to pay them more money, seems like they need to be in charge of more people or dealing with the client, something. No, we really want people to be happy in our company. This is one thing, and just the last thing to finish this is repetitive things are not good for the health of the company. So every time, if you are good on sales and you are a development company and you sell a lot and you have success selling and getting new clients, and when you finish, and then you can say to your development team or your teams that, okay, this is in production, that then you have the next project, right? So everything is going to be exactly the same. It's like the hamster in the wheel, right? So this hamster in the wheel thing, it's a sense that we don't want in the company. So the thing that we do in order to don't have this hamster in the wheel thing all the time, that no matter how do you do or whatever you deliver, that is going to be exactly the same the following session or season, because you deliver and then a new work and a new project. So we celebrate everything that we deliver. So that's exactly the aim of the thing. Just put in production and celebrate that,
Okay, I don't know about you all, but I feel like we have about 5 hours worth of questions and answers that have been generated just in this opening statement, right? And of course, we're not going to solve a problem here in 30 minutes. I don't know if that's what you were looking for. And I know, I mean, and actually, I think all of us have seen small teams grow into large. I was at an agency where I helped grow from 2 of us to 65, and I had a team of 19 developers. And the challenges for me have not changed dramatically over time. This was in the U.S., right? So these problems span geographies. They span economic times of boom and bust. We've been lucky in the e-commerce world that we've been, I think, in general, ascendant as an industry for quite some time. So with this sort of groundwork set that we are all probably encountering similar problems, I saw a lot of knowing head nods as front-end developers were mentioned. I'd like to open up to the floor because you all are really in the trenches, right? And I'd like to hear if someone has a question, would like to ask a question that they think might be relevant to everyone else, and I'll pass you the microphone.
Thank you, Ben. Daniel Wolfson from Magium Commerce. We're a Magento partner. I'm head of development. I'd like to ask that you've spoke about added value as team leaders. How has your journey been from being a technical coach of your employees? Has it ever moved into being a personal life coach for your employees?
Personal life coach.
I think I'll have a go at that one. So I don't think I've moved into a sort of personal life coach for any of my colleagues over my career. I think I've definitely been a professional coach to several of them on that journey. So the way you sort of started phrasing your question, I thought you were going to sort of go around the sort of how does a person move, and how do you help a person make a decision whether they want to move out of a sort of the technical focus into a sort of more managerial focus. And that's certainly something that I've helped a number of my colleagues do along their career, understanding actually what drives them, what motivates them, and there was that topic that you mentioned around salary, and if you have more money, you should manage more people. Well, possibly. An alternative way of viewing it is actually something along the dimensions of what value are you contributing to the company that you're working within, and indeed the sort of market demand conditions, right? So I think the summary is, yes, I think as managers and leaders, you do have to, I think it's part of the role. I mean, you have to coach, particularly the people that are sort of immediately reporting to you, so that they become themselves better leaders, not necessarily people leaders, they could be technical leaders. And I think one of the things that certainly sort of earlier in my career I suffered from was that sort of, one progresses as a technologist, as an engineer, out of that sort of technical focus into sort of managerial focus, because that's progression. That's how progression is defined. I think one of the things that I sort of subsequently learned and tried to implement in jobs after that is actually trying to create a technological engineering stream in your organization that allows people to progress and feel valued and indeed contribute more value, but still focusing on technology.
Yeah, I'll add a bit to it. It's quite relevant for me as well. So when I joined SportPursuit, I was the first technical hire. So there were 4 founders and 1 person looking after marketing. So I've built the tech team from myself to what it is today. So that's over almost 7 years, and I actually got to a point at the end of last year where I had to question my own role. So up until a few months ago, I was CTO, and I've changed my job title and my focus to be head of tech and architecture, because it's all very well managing a team and looking after them, but I wanted to look after myself as well. And one of my other colleagues has now taken over CIO, and we've done a whole restructure. And echoing some of what the other guys have said, there are other guys in my team, guys and ladies, who don't want to be managers and are reasonably senior, and that is fine. I've championed that, and it's to life coach. I mean, it's you're spending, other than your partner, you're spending most of your time with your colleagues anyway. So if you line managing someone, you do end up having some personal sort of influence on them. So you need to be there for your team. But yeah, probably the message I'd give to a lot of you who are reasonably senior as well is also think about yourself. I've gone through that journey, and I do enjoy managing people, but I also enjoy tech. So I've been selfish a little bit, I think, and made that change. And my CEO has supported that change, which has been fantastic. So I want to do that for my team as well. And if guys want to manage, I'll champion that. If they don't, I'll champion that as well.
My answer is quite short in this case.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Vale.
vale. So, it's okay. So regarding leadership, in my point of view, okay, leadership. You can provide leadership about people or about decisions, depending on what you want. In this case, maybe some people it's aimed to leader or take the leadership about people. Okay, that are not everyone is aiming to do that. Okay, and depending on the technical knowledge and the experience, they can take the lead about decisions in a technical way. So depending on those two things or sides of the leadership, maybe it's a good thing that you can teach your people to one side or another. Because dealing with people is something that is not, it's really a valuable asset, okay, and very difficult to find. But also there's a lot of people that are capable of taking the lead about technical decisions. That's my answer.
Okay, and I know I've had a couple of other people hold their hands up. Unfortunately, we're already at like 4 minutes, so I think it actually. So we did get the audience participation. We
are competing against the beers.
I know it's called beer pressure. Also, I understand there's some delicious non-alcoholic beverages as well. Mostly socialization that'll be happening at the end in the sponsor hall. But I wanted to, even though we've only been able to cover a couple of topics, kind of synthesize, right? Because if you can walk away from this session with any kind of actionable items or at least directions to think in. I'd say a couple of things that I've noticed. Tell me if this resonates with you, and perhaps through nod of head, whether you're falling asleep or agreeing, you can let me know. I think it is about not only. It's all about people, right? And if people were as simple as resources, like this person knows X, they are hired for this amount, our lives would be very simple. But our jobs would be very boring because of the interaction that we all have to have. So I think I heard a couple of themes were understanding what you want versus what the market supports, right? So that's the story of having to decide, well, we really want an in-house team, but we've realized to accomplish our goals, we are going to have to get outside of our comfort zone. We're going to have to go maybe outside in the same country, do some kind of local but remote work. We may even have to go into sort of different cultural climes, right? So reaching all the way out into like Central and Eastern Europe, or even out into Asia. It's also, I've seen, and I've seen this in my years in the Magento world. I've seen companies do that were sworn. They just realized that doing offshoring work was going to be really, really hard. And a lot of us in here have probably encountered those projects that were bad offshore implementations. It's hard to do right. Another important point, I think, is looking after the team that you have, making sure the couple of the themes that emerged was that they have a path, right? They have to have a path to advance because I think, Ignacio, you said it's, dollars mean different things to different people. And happiness and satisfaction can be an important source of capital. So it can be all about looking at your existing team, making sure that team member, that she or he is actually in the best position for where they are right now, and maybe identifying where they might want to grow in the future. I think, is that a pretty good synthesis so far? Okay. Are there any other like little themes that kind of popped out to you in this 28-minute exposition?
I'll add a couple of thoughts. So the first one is why. It's just so important that your colleagues, your engineers, your developers, your team members, everyone in the organization knows why we're doing this. And I don't mean because we want to reduce the page load speed. It's because we want to create this experience for the customer who's buying the product that you're buying. And then when the developers understand that, they're much more effective. And then if they know why, trust them. You know, I think as managers, sometimes we run the risk of sort of, you know, well, people use micromanaging as the sort of blanket expression, but sort of not empowering people to make decisions, you know, based on their professional experience. You know, obviously you've got to support them, but if you can't trust your team member to do stuff, why did you hire him or her? And why aren't you working to sort of improve that trust relationship? So tell them why and let them get on with it, and support them, right?
Okay. For me, and one of the things that we really like the most, and for example, Meet Magento Spain is that we organized, and it's like all the developers from other agencies, they used to come, right? So for my team, it's very important to go outside and go to meetups and go to Meet Magentos across the world if they can do. So we have some kind of a program that we send them across, you know, Europe in order to attend the meetings, but it's something like I don't know how many agencies developers are here, right? But if I was a CEO of a UK company here in right now, I will invite all my developers to come to the conference and exchange with another developers, even if they are from another companies, to talk about business, to talk about the struggles, the projects, how they do stuff. Okay, because sharing in an events like this, it's always a way to improve and keep them happy, you know? That's one of the things that I like.
Well, spoken like a true vice president of the Meet Magento Association, Ignacio. I know it can be scary to invest in people, but the fact of the matter is if they're going out to a conference and they're finding a place where they might be happier, guess what? Then that ultimately the move is right for them and probably right for the company. So anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, just talking about investing in people is like one thing I mentioned to one of my colleagues recently, just like two line managers having a conversation about their team, and one saying, oh yeah, all of my team want to go on courses and do training, and they want to get skilled up. And then one manager says, well, why don't you want to do that? Why don't you want to skill them up? He's like, well, because they're going to get skilled up and then they're going to leave. But then the other manager says, well, if you don't skill them up, then what then? So yeah, don't think about, you've got to invest in your people. And let's be honest, like nowadays, especially like with millennials, people don't stick around in the same job for 30 years and get a gold watch anymore. So people will move on. And I've seen, actually personally, I've worked with someone, I've actually worked with two guys in two different companies. So worked in one company, left, ended up working in another company with him together. So your paths will cross. And as a manager, you need to invest in people and need to try and empower them. And then to Carlos's point, just about trying to tie why people are working on something. Something that we've done as of this year, which has taken us a while to do, is actually in Jira, we try and tie every single ticket to a business priority. So there's a business priority epic across the business, and for the tech team, it's taken quite a lot of effort, and it's not perfect, but that is the end goal. So if a developer is picking up a ticket, they can look at the epic and they're like, why the hell am I working on this? And it's like, well, it's to improve like the cost of picking and packing at the end of the game. So yeah, trying to give guys background to why they're actually working on a small piece of code.
Yeah. Well, I mean, trying to do anything in Jira can be just like pulling teeth. And I think the expression, someone summed it up perfectly. I'm not the first to say it. Is that what if we invest in our people and they leave? It's like, well, what if you don't and they stay? So yes, I laughed at my own joke. It it was a fun realization for me, and why I think it's important to send people out to do things like Contribution Day, to let your developers contribute to the projects that matter to them. You will keep them happy. They will learn things. They will meet others, and they will be better. I'd like to continue this discussion, as much as I can. I have an email address, just ben@magento.com. Feel free. You can also reach out to me on Twitter, WhatsApp, Slack, whatever. And if Magento or things like Meet Magento or the Magento Association, if we can take some of these questions, some of these challenges that you all are facing, and start to build programs around it. It is a challenge that we can meet together. That's a big part of what we do. We're part of something special in the Magento world. But we can only solve these problems if we're talking about them. I want to thank our panelists, Steve, Carlos, Ignacio, and all of you for spending time with us. Enjoy the rest of this show, what's left, and the party afterwards. Thank you.